Opening shot not 3 months ago, 4th Congressional District Representative Jesus Chuy Garcia announced he would seek a 4th term, sounding optimistic about the progressive Hispanic movement that he has been at the forefront of.
In Illinois, our progressive movement is not only advancing a joint progressive agenda, but we've created a safe haven for women, for LGBTQ people, and for immigrants, to mention just a few.
And up until last night, it seemed like all things were a go. He even had a fundraiser just 2 weeks ago. But then the news came at the close of business yesterday that he had a change of heart due to his wife's unfortunate health circumstances and some other family considerations. He said it was time to hang it up. Now, this announcement just happened to come as the deadline hit for any candidate to turn in their nominating petitions if they want to run. So anyone now looking at an open seat and wanting to jump in, yeah, it's too late. That is, except for one person, and that's his chief of staff, Patty Garcia, who somehow got the advance notice to circulate her own petitions and file to run. Now, make no mistake, this certainly seems like the classic Chicago political move. Announce you're running, repel any potential challenger, then pull the bait and switch when it's too late, thereby paving the way for your preferred successor. Former candidate and 15th Ward Alderman Raymond Lopez says he doesn't think the timing is a coincidence.
You pulled the machine move that you were fighting against for almost your entire career. He is ending his career basically as part of the machine that he hated so much to be a part of.
Now, both Congressman Garcia and Patty Garcia did not return calls, but in an exclusive interview with Capitol Facts, Garcia answered his critics saying, quote, "I respect their views. I can see why they would do that, but I think I follow the rules. I followed the filing calendar and, of course, took time to reflect on making this choice because it came as a shock to all of our supporters. It's still shocking many of our allies. By week's end, and my entire family, my 2 boys and my daughter-in-laws and some of my grandkids were begging me to come home. And I'm responding to that." So if this is truly the end of the road for Garcia, it's been quite a run for the immigrant from Durango, Mexico. He was part of the coalition that elected Harold Washington mayor back in the 80s. He served in the Illinois General Assembly, Cook County Board. He pushed Rahm Emanuel to a runoff for Chicago mayor in 2015 before heading to D.C., widely respected as a progressive leader. But the way he chose to call it quits casts quite a cloud over that progressive legacy. Tonight, a federal judge calls the Broadview ICE processing facility a prison after hearing shocking testimony about alleged deplorable conditions. Race day in New York City, will Democratic Socialist Zoran Mamdani hang on against disgraced former governor Andrew Cuomo? Illinois lawmakers tackle energy prices, so why do Republicans think new legislation will actually make them go up? And the right to die. A Republican doctor urges Governor Pritzker not to sign the law that would give Illinois residents the option to die with medical assistance. Welcome to the Chicago Report. I'm Paris Schutz. The myriad legal cases against the Fed's Operation Midway Blitz move forward today. Federal judge claiming testimony about conditions inside that Broadview ICE facility are more like a prison. Now, this is all part of a federal lawsuit alleging deplorable conditions at that facility and a systemic violation of rights.
I think the government has gotten themselves into a jam by rounding up as many people as they have without having facilities to maintain them at. I think this is something they should have thought about before they rounded up all these hundreds of people and stuck them in these rooms. I think the judge, like any human listening to this today, had to be moved by what he heard. I certainly think he is moving in that direction. He obviously has to make up his own mind tonight. I don't want to prejudge where he's going, but I think it was difficult even for him to hear.
And joining us is our colleague, Kasey Chronis, who's been in the courtroom all day. So, Kasey, it certainly sounds like the judge is going to listen to the plaintiffs and issue some kind of temporary restraining order, but we don't know what yet.
That's right, and we will find out tomorrow at 4:15. That is when we will be back in court. Now, this judge actually has a jury trial that he is busy with all day tomorrow, so he set the time of 4:15. The attorneys for the plaintiffs will return to court, along with some of the plaintiffs themselves, who we heard from today testifying. We heard a lot about what is going on inside the Broadview ICE facility. It's boarded up on the outside, so we can no longer see through the windows there, but we we heard a lot about what's been going on inside, and the judge called it inhuman. It sounds like tomorrow he will issue an order, but exactly what he will order and the extent it will go, we don't know. Will he take everyone out of the facility or just implement some new protocols? We'll have to wait and see.
And I think he said something to the effect of he doesn't want to hamper the operation, but he wants to do something. And so what were some of the testimony that stood out to you in terms of people talking about the conditions there?
You know, one woman, she said that when she was at that facility, she was encouraged to sign documents. And we've heard this several times from several different plaintiffs, but that she was encouraged to sign documents. She didn't know what they said. She doesn't speak English. They didn't give her a Spanish translation, and that she signed these documents because she was told in Spanish that she would have a 5-year reentry ban. So she thought, okay, if it's only 5 years, that'll be just 5 years where I don't have to see my kids. It's the best case scenario. Well, she left to Honduras. That's where she called in from today. And she said she was actually told after she signed the papers that it was 10 years, not 5. She started crying. She broke down. She doesn't know when she will see her young kids again.
Clearly, her kids are here, and she was divorced, so 10 years. And then I was also reading about a woman who actually had a newborn at home, correct?
Yeah, we talked to a woman, or she testified rather, I should say, who has a little baby at home, and, or I should say her attorney testified rather. The attorney testified and said that this woman has a little baby at home, her client. She was trying to reach her client once she found out that her client was taken to this facility because the woman hadn't breastfed in 24 hours. So her attorney picked up a breast pump for her. She drove it to Broadview. She said she was met by state troopers. She passed the message along. She finally got clearance to take the supplies to the door. She handed it off to agents and then later found out that her client never got those supplies. And I'm unclear right now where that client is. I think she was taken out of state, and that is when her attorney heard from her. It wasn't until she was transferred out of state. And that's something that the attorneys who testified said today, and that's in the lawsuit, that they have not been able to reach their clients in this facility. The only times that they have had luck is if they just so happen to be with a family member of someone who's detained and they are on the phone with their loved one, because the people who are detained, they don't have their attorneys' numbers memorized.
Right, and I think they get one phone call, and it's a very costly phone call from what I understand, who's contracting there. And clearly the government is saying, you know, they're not letting anybody in, and so now we're getting a sense of, they're not letting the media, I should say, and public officials. Now this is the only sense we get of what's happening in there. Do they have a defense? Do they say, no, that's not actually the case?
You know, the government is arguing that this is just a temporary holding facility, that, you know, people aren't staying here for extended periods of time. But then we heard from someone who said he slept on the floor, the concrete floor, for 3 nights. Didn't have a hot meal for 3 days, that they were giving them Subway sandwiches, ham and lettuce for 3 meals a day, rather. So we are hearing, you know, really what's kind of going on inside for the first time from people who have stayed there. They say there are not many blankets. The furniture is like those plastic chairs that you'd see maybe on someone's front porch, that they're having to sleep sitting up. So, you know, as you mentioned, the judge really taking this all in and thinking about it tonight.
All right, Kasey Chronis, thank you so much for that update, and we know that you will stay on it. We'll await that TRO tomorrow.
Sounds good. Thanks, Paris.
All right. Great. Thanks, Kasey. And, of course, tonight the polls are just closing in New York City as the nation awaits the results of one of the most watched mayoral campaigns in recent memory. Polling frontrunner Zohran Mamdani is facing Democratic former Governor Andrew Cuomo and Republican Curtis Sliwa. So for the latest, we go to Fox's Connor Hansen, live from New York, who is going to give us the very latest as we understand that turnout has been extremely high today. That could favor Mamdani, who has been leaning in all the polls. So, Mr. Connor Hansen, there you are. Give us the update. Do we have any returns right now?
Well, not quite. We still have just over an hour before polls close here in New York City. It goes rather late, 9 p.m. local time. But I can tell you by this afternoon, more than 1 million New Yorkers had already voted, and that's surpassing vote totals for mayoral elections stretching back 20 years. Now, we've seen local issues like the cost of living front and center in this race, but it's also been thrust into the national spotlight. Both parties looking closely to see how this goes.
And we know that polls have showed consistently Mamdani in the lead. Is there any change as this race now comes down to the finish line? Has Cuomo closed that gap at all?
Well, like you mentioned, heading into this race, Mamdani did have a clear lead, and he's maintained that ever since the primary where he defeated former Governor Andrew Cuomo. He's since switched to an independent running against him. He did close the gap with Mamdani in a few polls, and you still have the Republican nominee Curtis Sliwa taking a share of those votes as well. But this could very much be a tight race. We won't really know for another hour or so. But a little bit about these candidates. The front runner, Zohran Mamdani, 34 years old, self-described Democratic socialist, a state assemblyman. He's pitched ideas like freezing rent, free buses, city-run grocery stores. Now, he had a largely social media-driven campaign, a lot of young people behind him to defeat Cuomo in that primary. All of these candidates do agree that something needs to be done about affordability. Cuomo pitching himself as the more moderate option in this race, trying to play up his experience as governor in this race. So we'll be watching closely to see where this goes next.
Yeah, we know that this has been viewed nationally. It's viewed by some insiders as a bellwether. President Trump clearly getting very involved with postings urging people to vote for Cuomo there. So we will eagerly wait and see what the result is. Connor Hansen, thanks for bringing us the latest.
Thanks, Paris.
All right, and when we come back, will Governor Pritzker sign the controversial Right to Die Act? Right after this.